FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz, and our good friend Jason Hartman is back from a long hiatus over across the pond in Europe. He's got lots of great stories for us. And Jason, you've got some interesting news on real estate. There is a shortage of inventory. For those of you who are not in the business, that means it is very hard to buy a house. And you've got your outlook on real estate. So with that out of the way, welcome back home. I know the best feeling in the world is when you get off that plane and you're back in the good old US of A.
It's bittersweet, Kerry, I'll tell you. I was born in Europe, but let me tell you, Europe is a disaster. Any leftist, Marxist, Bernie Sanders liberal in the U.S. or Obama liberal who thinks the U.S. should become more like Europe is absolutely out of their mind. It's like Europe is the continent of lack, of scarcity, and listen, I'm only talking from a standard of living standpoint, an economic standpoint. I love Europe. I was born in Europe. I go there almost every year. Been there many, many times. It's history, culture, it's interesting for sure. No question about it. And not to mention, if you go to Eastern Europe, what I call the land of the supermodels, I'm a single guy. Okay. It's, it's pretty good that way too. So, people in Europe, people in the U.S. that think we should be more European are absolutely out of their tree. People in Europe live in crappy little houses. They drive crappy little cars, or they drive crappy little scooters and Vespas. And they wait in line all the time. They take dirty public transportation with people that smell bad because they don't shower enough. What else can I say? Like, seriously, the unemployment rate in some of these European countries is insane. Several of them are on the verge of collapse. Essentially, the continent has committed suicide through socialism, liberalism, Marxism, and immigration policy and political correctness. It's just mind-boggling that anybody in the U.S. thinks we should be more like Europe. Yeah, it's crazy.
And they just had that summit, the G7 summit, and Merkel had all these bad things to say about Donald Trump.
You know what? Here's what people don't understand about this stuff. And listen, I'm no huge Trump fan. Most people think I am, and I don't know why they think that. I think Trump is a strange character. He's kind of a weird guy. I mean, his speech patterns are odd. He's in many ways very immature. He's like, a child in an adult's body in some ways, not always. I'm glad he won compared to the criminal known as Hillary Clinton. But, look at the reason all these foreign leaders are saying bad things about Trump is because Trump actually, for the first time, it's so refreshing, represents, or at least says he represents, America for a change. Mm-hmm. Whereas every previous president for a long time has sold us down the river, okay? Democrat, Republican, I don't care if it's Bush or Obama or Clinton, they have all sold us out. And Trump says he's not going to do that. Now, actions speak louder than words. Obviously, it's too early to tell. But, Trump is their opponent in negotiating these trade deals and so forth, right? Why would they like their opponent? He has come out and said, unlike other presidents, that, look, I am representing America. I don't represent the world, which is really refreshing, if you ask me. So,
absolutely.
Why would they like him? Of course they don't like him.
Hey, know this.
He's their competitor.
Judge these people by the enemies they make, right?
Yeah. And like Winston Churchill said, if you don't have any enemies, you're not doing anything in life.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I got a couple of trolls that keep sending me stuff that I finally just blocked because honestly, I lost my patience. But yeah, if you're doing anything of value, you have to make enemies. It's that simple. So
in fact, that is literally, Kerry, that is a metric, a success metric. If you are not rocking the boat and you are not upsetting people, you aren't doing anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially for an agent of change. if you're trying to change the world, change what people think. Hey, Obama, he had plenty of enemies. Now, I didn't happen to agree with many of his policies, but he was doing something there. And Trump is the inverse of Obama in many respects here. He's really the opposite. And
and that's refreshing because Obama was terrible. But absolutely.
Except for all the rest.
It's really amazing to me. I mean, Europe is like the land of scarcity. They're all concerned about conservation. Turn off the lights. You walk into rooms, there's no lights. You don't know where the light switch, and every commercial building, all the lights in the hallways turn off all the time. And
climate change.
It's just. I mean, imagine if the Wright brothers were trying to invent the airplane, and they had to be so overly concerned about their environmental policy. How far would they have gotten? Seriously. I mean, listen, I like the environment as much as the next guy, but this stuff has just gone too far. It's ridiculous.
And it's not science-based, all this environmental protection stuff.
It's mob mentality.
It's
listen, green trees have red roots. That's what they used to say. And and then the red means communism. Okay.
Right. It's a rule by the Luddites. You don't know what the Luddites were? They were the guys that in the late 1800s in England smashed the looms because they said that the automated loom, the steam-powered loom, was going to cause massive unemployment. And you see how that worked out. So,
when Elias Howe invented the sewing machine, people cried out, "What will women do with all their spare time?" I think they figured that out.
Yeah, I think so. Since a woman's place is no longer in the home. Hey, so there we go. Upsetting people, angering the three women listening to the show, right?
Well, and interestingly, since there are only three women listening to the show, listen, I love women. Okay, so but it's interesting to see because on this trip, and I'd been to on this trip, I went to my 81st country. Okay, and that was Lithuania. I had not been to Lithuania before. Every other country I visited on this trip, whether it be Ukraine, Latvia, France, Germany, I've been to all of those before. Okay. And, but Lithuania was number 81 country for me. And what's interesting is when you go from east to west to see the impact of literally feminism, you could isolate it down to feminism. And there's like this sickening component of feminism, which I think was really largely, a ploy to just lower the birth rate of educated people. That's what feminism seems to have achieved that goal. And feminism, do not confuse feminism with equal rights. It's not, they are polar opposites and should never be confused. One has nothing to do with the other, even though that's what the leftist media will tell you. Equal rights and feminism and equal pay and feminism are not the same thing. Okay.
Yes.
Feminism is this like destructive ideology, which, many people that don't know anything about the history of it will say, "Oh, I'm a feminist." Oh, well, you better read your history and learn a little bit about it before you say that. Because it's like there's this whole thing. It's really weird. And here in Las Vegas, where I live now since October, you see the uglification of especially women, right?
Yeah.
Where people are putting all this body art on their bodies, rings in their nose. Nice. I don't get it. I don't know. Maybe I'm just totally square and I'm just not hip.
You are,
or something. Maybe I'm just getting old. But
you are.
It's like to look ugly on purpose. What? I don't know. I just don't get it. It's a strange thing. It's like I don't know. It's a very weird kind of sickness that's going on in the world. I don't understand.
Rush Limbaugh calls it the chickification of men. And the demasculinization of men. And
well, that's
the worst thing.
Go ahead with that thought because I got to comment on that after you. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so basically anything male is bad, is evil, taking advantage of women, blah, blah, blah. And it's a whole misreading of nature because, yin and yang, polarity, all that, opposites, all of this is necessary to bring out the best in women and men. It's not like women are oppressed and, roles might change, but who you are and there's a difference between men and women. Let's face it, we're not the same. And to try to make us the same is really a travesty.
Well, basically, the little boys that are rambunctious and hyper, they drug them up now in schools. They put them on all kinds of prescription drugs. The girls are getting all sorts of crazy cosmetic surgery at ridiculously early ages. Like becoming so sexualized at such young ages. If I had a daughter and she was 16 and wanted a boob job, I think I'd shoot myself.
That's insane.
This is just ridiculous the way society has become. But the interesting thing is like you said, the polarity, right? Mm-hmm. I'll give you an example. Ukrainian women are extremely feminine. Yeah. And you just don't find, I think the last time we really had that in the US, and I'm not really even old enough to know this very well, but I do remember slightly, was in the 80s. Mm-hmm. Okay. In the 80s, women wore dresses and had long hair, and granted it was big hair, and I think it looks kind of weird looking back.
Especially in New Jersey and Texas. Yes.
But yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's like there's this race to the center, if you will, of where there's like this, let's get the feminine to be more masculine and the masculine to be more feminine and meet in the middle. And I think polarity is what's attractive, but whatever. And listen, this is not a speech on sexual freedom or gender freedom or, gender identity or anything. I don't care. I'm a libertarian. Okay. I don't care what anybody does. Exactly. Right. I think everybody should be free to be who they want to be. That's not the point. What the point is more about this, like cramming it down our throats with this leftist media culture.
Ideology.
It's just really, I don't even know how to explain what I
know what you're saying.
I don't really understand it myself.
Well, look at the stir. And I just want to mention this for a moment. Then we got to get on with real estate.
We're going to talk about real estate.
Yeah. Remember that business you've been in for a little while?
Yeah, okay.
But Melania Trump and the impression that she made in Europe.
The best looking first woman, the classiest first lady since Jackie Kennedy. Yeah.
Oh, she was spectacular. And her selection of outfits, they called it fashion diplomacy.
Yeah, she looked like she was wearing the Tiffany's dress.
Yeah. Oh, she was amazing. Like
she looked gorgeous. Yeah.
She's in Saudi Arabia and she's wearing this thing that's kind of like a burqa-esque looking thing. I don't remember. It's kind of looks Arabic. Uh-huh. The lines of it. And then, what everybody's missing about that trip is the symbolism. He goes to the world's three great religions, or the three main religions, or the three Western religions, I should say.
Yeah. Okay.
Israel, Judaism, then he's with the Pope, and then he's, not necessarily in this order, and then he's in Saudi Arabia, the home of Mecca, where, Islam resides. So everybody's missing the effort to kind of join them together to A, get rid of terrorism, and B, to make the world a little better place. And there's no mention of this. And I thought it was brilliant. And Melania bridged the three worlds so well. She was amazing and gets no credit. I came to believe after that trip that she is his biggest asset. No puns intended at all. She's an amazing person.
Trump causes enough of his own problems, but certainly having such a classy, elegant first lady is, I think it's fantastic. It's so refreshing. I mean, Michelle Obama dressed like a slob half the time, and she just looked weird the other half of the time.
Well, you mean Michael? Michael, you mean?
What?
I'm just kidding. No, there's
a
whole speculation, conspiracy nut job theory that she is really a he. But I'm just teasing. I'm not saying that. But Melania, class act and a real positive for the country, the way she portrayed us.
I put a post on my Facebook about that shortly after the election, and I said, regardless, love or hate the Trumps, okay? So I got that out of the way. I know that half the people hate them, and, I'm sort of on the like side a little bit, but I have tons of reservations about Trump. Don't get me wrong. I'm not some rah-rah Trump guy. Do not hear that. That is not me.
Never thought
Don't
that.
attribute it to me. Okay. But I do think he's got some good ideas, right? And let's see what he achieves. Okay. It's too early to tell, but I put that on there and I said, you have to admit that Melania is an elegant, classy first lady. And oh, you couldn't believe the leftist trolls, the venom.
Yeah.
The venom.
The hate
I mean, we're
in
not
their
even
souls.
talking about her husband. We're just talking about her, right?
The hate.
Just the hatred, the intolerance. It's unbelievable. Just unbelievable.
God, yeah. Oh, yeah. You're not even kidding. So, hey, what's with real estate? Why can't you find a house to buy now?
Well, I have been in this business a long time. And even if you hate my politics or whatever, I don't know, I'm sort of neutral. I'm just a libertarian. Okay. So I don't like either side. I'm just, I'm on my own team, libertarian team. I think this is the scarcest inventory level I have ever seen. We basically help people invest in properties nationwide in different markets that we research and recommend, and inventory is so scarce. There are so many dollars. There is so much capital chasing such a limited supply of investment housing stock and owner-occupied housing stock also, even though that's not what we deal in. But we certainly watch that market because it's part of the overall business. It's just like tidal waves of capital out there looking to just gobble up every property they can. And again, I always talk, Carrie, on your show about you've got to classify markets and segment them into three major categories: cyclical, linear, and hybrid. And in the cyclical markets, I think those markets are very overheated. They're definitely in bubble territory. They are way out of whack with the fundamentals. Miami, Los Angeles, New York City, Washington, D.C., Paris, Dubai, Hong Kong. These places are London. They're insane. Hawaii, okay, they're all just way too expensive. And but those aren't markets that we would ever recommend for investment. Those are for speculators. They're for gamblers. The linear conservative markets that we like because we're just yield-oriented investors. The inventory is just very, very scarce. It's very hard to find properties. But again, those haven't gone up to extreme levels. They're not out of bounds in terms of fundamentals. And how do you know where the fundamentals are? You know it by what I call the LTI ratio, the land to improvement ratio, which is my own metric that I invented, and along with something else I invented called the Hartman risk evaluator, which I've talked about on your show, and I also talk about on my podcast extensively. If you want to know more about that one, you can just go to jasonhartman.com, in the search bar type Hartman risk evaluator, and get a good lesson on that to understand how to dramatically limit risk when real estate investing, because right now at this time, some markets are very overvalued, so be very careful. Now, that doesn't mean that they will pop tomorrow, that the bubble will pop tomorrow. You can chew a piece of gum and you can blow a bubble, and depending on how extreme and how big you make that bubble will determine how long the bubble might last, right? And the bubble's getting pretty big in many cyclical markets, but that doesn't mean it can't go on for a while. If Trump repeals or softens Dodd-Frank, that means more capital is going to flow in. And, you could kick this can down the road for a while, but it will inevitably burst because the fundamentals are way out of whack in those markets.
But the best thing is the markets that you look at. And I sent you an article. I don't know if you caught it, but it said markets or cities where your income goes the furthest. And interestingly enough, roughly there were 25 of them, and every market that you had except Birmingham, Alabama was in it.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Every single one was in it. Yeah. Indianapolis, Columbus, Ohio, where else? Tampa, Florida.
Those are all markets we like.
Right. All markets that you're involved in. There was easily 8 or 10 markets in there that you were involved in. It was remarkable, really remarkable. And the median home price in those markets was roughly 150 to 200,000 median, which means that the type of house that you guys look for is ample, abundant supply.
Carrie, I'm really glad you brought that up, because we always look to invest below the median price. Okay, we don't want the really cheap, crappy C and D class type properties. Although from time to time we have a few of those C's because some of our clients are just like the bargain hunter types that really like them. But we like the A and B type properties in these markets that are just below the median in a market that makes sense. So that's a very good point.
Yeah, I know. And I've been with you on those property trips. When's the next property tour, by the way?
Oh, thank you for asking. Yeah, we've got one coming up in Oklahoma City, a real boring place.
Oh, perfect.
But
that is
a good place to invest. So Oklahoma City, we're going to do Jason Hartman University Live, which is, I have a couple of different educational conferences I do. And this one is the one, we call it JHU, Jason Hartman University, where we really dive into how to acquire the right properties, how to analyze them, how to do the math and do all of the numbers on the properties and really be a good non-emotional, very rational investor. And then we're going to actually tour properties as well and go out and get on the bus and look at properties, and people will buy properties at that property tour also.
I love all of your events. I mean, from your discussions, your view on the economy, et cetera, at all your events. But when you get on the bus and you go out and kick the tires, as it were, that is the most fun. I mean, it really is. And I've seen people spend hundreds of thousands of dollars and collectively millions at your events buying these houses. So we have a giveaway for FSN out there.
Well, we will arrange this. If you don't air the show too quickly,
I'll give you 3 days.
We will get this arranged. Great. And why don't we offer your listeners a nice 30% discount, okay? And if they go to jasonhartman.com/Lutz, Lutz, Carrie's last name, jasonhartman.com/Lutz, we will also give away a few free tickets as well. So they just can enter their name there and get some freebie tickets and also a promo code for 30% off. Okay. Excellent. We'll put that on the jasonhartman.com/Lutz site. Okay.
I mean, you're not like one of these guys, Jason, who's a cult of personality type guy. You're just too down to earth and practical for that. But you can learn so much at one of these events. And even if you've never been in real estate before, never invested, never collected a dollar of rent in your life or flipped the property and turned a profit, God willing, you can learn so much from this that, real estate, it doesn't matter whether you get involved now or in a year or two or whenever you can, it's not going anyplace. So the key is learn as much as you can, as fast as you can. And your events really are like real estate education on steroids, Jason, because you look at it like your risk evaluator, like the multiple of land to house, that ratio.
Yep, the LTI ratio.
No one's ever looked at real estate like you do, and you've looked for these opportunities all over the world, and you've only been able to find them in the good old U.S. of A. That's the other thing that I find amazing. But it's rule of law. It's information.
The U.S. has a pretty special real estate market. You know what it is too, Carrie? It's not only that, but it's, of course, the financing in real estate in the U.S. has been subsidized by the government ever since the Great Depression. And neither of us are in favor of that philosophically. But hey, if it's offered, we'll take it. Okay?
Yeah, what are you going to do? You're not going to change the world, and you're not going to profit by adhering to some crazy values or philosophy that keeps you out of the game. There's no point to that. As long as they're going to do it and profit accordingly, because your kids and your wife and your husband, they don't care about the fact that it should be a libertarian free market society. It's unimportant.
Yeah, right. So, exactly. But here's the other thing the U.S. has that's really special that other countries do not have. And I've been to 81 countries now. Okay. And the U.S. has data. It has really good data standards so that you can find comparables on a property. Things are very transparent. It is not that, not many countries have real MLS systems, multiple listing systems like we do. They don't have Zillow like we do. For better or worse, Zillow's hardly perfect, but it is a reference point.
It's an information tool.
Yeah, it's better than nothing. Okay, for sure.
Exactly.
And so, the U.S. has a very special real estate market. And again, one metric, I was going to mention this a few minutes ago when we were kind of talking about it, so it's a little off topic now. But here's one way to know if you're an investor or a gambler. If the asset does not produce income, you are a gambler. you're a speculator.
Great point.
It's got to produce income. So in the stock market, you would be a dividend investor rather than just a non-dividend paying stocks. In real estate, you would invest for cash flow for yield. Our approach is very simple and conservative, and it's the one that's worked for hundreds of millions of people, making income property the most historically proven asset class in the entire world. Yield, yield, yield.
Absolutely.
That's what it's all about. Return on investment, not capital appreciation, not betting on the farm, nothing great has to happen for you to make money with our investments.
Yeah, that is a great point. So just go over to jasonhartman.com/Lutz. Enter the contest. Go there. I highly recommend it. It could be transformational in your life, in your investing outlook, and in your future. So, Jason, hey, it's always great to have you on. Any questions for myself or Jason? Just send an email, kl@kerrylutz.com. Jason, I'm going to try to make it to Oklahoma City. What's the date again?
This is the first weekend of July. So right after the 4th of July, we're going to celebrate Independence Day, right? But then I want you to come and work on your financial Independence Day with us, okay?
Absolutely.
That following weekend. So what is that, July 7th and 8th, I believe, or 8th and 9th? Whatever it is here. Let me just get the date for you, actually, and actually be better at this, right? Like I should. So it is July.
I took you by surprise here, and I got
it's 8th and 9th. It's July 8th and 9th in Oklahoma City. And that's JHU Live plus the property tour. And so we look forward to seeing you there.
Hey, and I will definitely try to make it. And look, I've known you a long time, Jason. I've known dozens of people who've invested in your system with you. And, I've not heard any complaints from anybody on the show or any place. And that alone says it all. So, Jason, we'll talk to you again soon. Be well, and we'll be back.
Thank you, Kerry. And just one more time on that link, jasonhartman.com/Lutz. Thanks for listening, everybody, and happy investing.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.